Okay, so let's get to it. My name is Ella. I am a junior at Tufts University in Somerville, Massachusetts, studying geological sciences and French. So our wonderful impact team manager, Carrie Ann, has been helping me with the logistics of this, and she may or may not pop in later. But I'd also really love to thank Orion and Laura on the green team just for helping to advertise this event. And it means so much to have worked with you both. Okay, so pretty much as a CEA or Community Energy Advocate, part of Common Energy's impact team, I am a member of our youth-led group of environmental activists out to fight climate change. We are using community solar as a means of getting more folks on board with the transition to renewable energy. So today I'll be setting the scene with some useful context specific to Massachusetts, and then I'll be filling you in on what you can do in Maynard to help reduce carbon emissions with your utility. So there should be plenty of time for questions at the end. So if you have any pressing questions, feel free to either put them in the chat where I'll be able to see them a bit later, or just write them down, and then we'll have kind of an open floor discussion just to make sure everybody is all set with questions. So with that, I think I will get started. All right. So we're going to start at kind of the basics that are fundamental to climate policy, and that is renewable portfolio standards. So what on earth are they? So these standards are government policies that increase renewable energy generation and use. And as you can see from the graphic on the right, let's see. So there are 28 states that have them in place, including Massachusetts. And more specifically, RPS requires electricity suppliers to provide at least a certain percent of their electricity with renewables or their energy from renewables. But there's also a time component. They essentially set a minimum requirement or starting point for the percent renewables to be generated and distributed for a state that goes up over time. So in Massachusetts, for example, the minimum percent begins at 16% back in 2018 and then increases 2% annually to 80% in 2050. Granted, I'm sure at least a couple of you are into current policy and are aware of the worthy commotion going on with what was originally Bill S.2995, entitled An Act Creating a Next Generation Roadmap for Massachusetts Climate Policy, which got through state legislature, got pocket vetoed by Governor Baker, reproposed as Bill S.9, and has been referred to some various committees and readings with amendments, etc. So as of now, it's still in the works, but essentially has a really ambitious emissions target for 2030, a net zero limit by 2050, and a number of provisions to address environmental justice and economic sector limits. So for those of you who aren't too much into policy, the takeaway here is that in Massachusetts, we have an extremely strong group of environmentalists and just people who care about the planet enough to push forward impactful policy that you can be part of today, even as we continue to advance better policy. So this is where community solar and just solar in general comes into play. And so a lot of questions come up with what's the difference between rooftop and community solar. Most people have only heard of rooftop. So this is kind of a really quick overview. But let's start with rooftop. So these are small scale panels installed directly onto your property for an upfront cost, which is unfortunately often in the thousands. In other words, this is on-site energy generation. So this provides electricity to your home directly, and then any excess that's generated is actually distributed to the larger electrical grid. So these can be paired with storage components for future use. And then I think the biggest thing for most people is the financial savings aspect. It's actually the largest in the long term of just solar technology in general, after that initial upfront cost of installation. So as compared to community solar, there's no on-site installation, because these are large scale offsite panels that are installed in the same utility zone as your home or your business, providing electricity to the grid. So subscribers essentially purchase a portion of the energy that's generated at these sites at a discount thanks to state incentives. And then overall financial savings will be smaller, but you are supporting locally produced clean energy without that upfront cost and an added discount thanks to state incentives. Okay, so time to delve a little bit deeper. To go off of the US Department of Energy's definition, community solar is any solar project that benefits multiple consumers. This could be individuals, businesses, farms, and in most cases, all who are benefiting from the energy that is usually generated by solar panels at an offsite array. So in other words, not on your own roof, but a lot more panels built on a large plot of land and connected to the electrical grid for more people to use. So a 2008 study by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or the NREL, found that only 22 to 27% of residential rooftop area is actually suitable for hosting rooftop solar panels. Not to mention, only financially able homeowners are eligible. But in order to put climate policy in all states into action, we need a lot more than that 20-some% participation. In other words, we need community options that are accessible and equitable to expand just access to solar power for homeowners and renters, those with shaded roofs, or whose roof is just simply the floor of someone else's living unit, and also for those who just choose not to install for financial or other reasons. So this is why states have created solar incentive programs that taxpayers like yourselves are actually already contributing to right now. So the key takeaways for community solar are it's equitable, making clean energy more accessible, especially now. And then I think that leads me right into the fact that we are in the midst of not only this dreaded pandemic, but a transition to 100% renewable energy, hopefully by 2050, if not 2045, here in Massachusetts. And hopefully the rest of the nation will follow suit. But lastly, we need climate action now, and community solar is an easy, free, and effective means of including everyone for this ride as renewables quickly outpace and surpass coal. So, as we can see from our pie chart, Massachusetts actually takes third as of June 2020, not far behind Florida and Minnesota when it comes to the installed clean energy capacity of community solar tech. So according to the NREL, the first project documented in this database goes back as far as 2006 with the, let's see, the Renewable Energy Park in Washington State. And it now spans to nearly 2,000 projects across the nation. So already 20 states in the US have community solar policy in place. But that doesn't mean that they have the physical infrastructure just yet installed, which is kind of why there are only 10 states on this pie chart here. But by the end of 2019, Massachusetts ranked 8th in the nation in solar generating capacity with about 2,540 megawatts installed, and 8th in production, accounting for about 14% of the state's net generation. In other words, we are a leading force in solar policy advancements, which is, I think, extremely exciting. All right. So at Common Energy, our solar farms fall under the state programs that are helping to make this transition possible. And that brings us to how you can get involved by taking part in this transition to renewable energy with your own utility. So I'm here to tell you about a state-supported community solar program that has two main parts. First of all, it allows you to help lower carbon emissions, while second of all, saving monthly on electricity amidst our current climate crisis. So with that, if you haven't had the chance to either grab a cup of tea or something to get settled, I'm going to be going into about a 15 or so minute presentation as well on specifically community solar farms through Common Energy. So let's get to it. Okay. So before I jump into the company, I want to start with the fact that we are able to do what we do because of Massachusetts policy that is in place today. This is a screenshot taken directly off the state website, and it details how the state of Massachusetts wants to support these new clean energy projects with a number of programs they've put in place. And this could be anything from the tax credits or energy tax credits that they have, or specifically the loans that people take out that are very much specific to solar panel installation. But Among them is their SMART program, which is where Common Energy and our solar farms fall. So the SMART program was launched by the Department of Energy Resources and partners with and incentivizes investor-owned utilities. So again, Mass has that written goal of 35% renewables by 2030, and then a little later down the road, hopefully 100% by 2050. And the state intends to get to these goals. In other words, Common Energy can help you lower emissions and save, not because we found a loophole around current policy, but because we're bringing so much more attention to what the state already has in place. So also at the end of this webinar, I'll be sending a little link along with a couple other links that I'll be mentioning in just a moment. So if you want to look at them later, I'll be sending, for example, this state website along as well. Okay. So the internship that I am currently doing right now with Common Energy and that I've been doing since the summer is through Common, and we work with official community solar programs that support clean energy and offer guaranteed savings. We are registered with the Massachusetts State Department of Public Service. For some reason, that's always a tongue twister, and it really shouldn't be, as an official community solar provider. And then this is another link that I'll be passing along later this evening, but feel free to look at our reviews with the Better Business Bureau. And then also we serve thousands of customers across New York, Maryland, Illinois, Massachusetts, and then as of, I believe at least 2 months ago, Maine and Minnesota. And this is a small little aside, but I believe we are also slowly branching out into the West Coast. And as a Californian myself, I am so excited about this. So last but not least, we contribute a portion of our profits to local nonprofits. And these are just 4 to name a few. But we always love to highlight One Tree Planted because I think while we're doing our part to lower carbon emissions, we also want to make sure that other environmental organizations are doing the same just to amplify those effects. So with all 4 of these, in fact, we're making the world extremely at its max in terms of environmental impact. Okay. So I've given the little spiel on community solar, but to rephrase it in a sentence, it's really just about getting more clean energy to more households. And so this starts with a community solar farm that converts energy from the sun into clean electricity. And so essentially these farms are just huge projects that are built on recycled agricultural land. And I know this is a question that comes up all the time. Are you clearing trees and just simply deforesting plots of land in order to put these panels up? And I can say this with extreme confidence, no. So essentially these plots of land could just easily be unused and recycled just by nature of them being possibly snatched by industrial or other big corporate companies. So there's some comfort in that. And basically they supply energy to hundreds of homes. And I think comparing that to a few expensive panels on a single house, again, the impact of this is just so widespread. So second, this clean electricity is then connected to the utility, and then a proportional amount of dirty energy is actually taken off the grid. In other words, when we're adding clean energy to the grid, we're actively replacing fossil fuels, which again is extremely powerful. So this electricity is then distributed throughout the broader electrical grid. And then finally, anyone who signs up receives a portion of the farm's clean energy, as well as savings each month on their electricity bill. Okay, so how it works with us is that, first of all, you sign up with Common Energy, which is a free process and should only take about 5 minutes, completely online. And then what we do on our end is we connect your account to a local solar project. So what this does is it will allow you to receive clean energy credits every month based off of your previous electricity usage, and that will lower your energy cost. And lastly, you lower emissions by adding clean energy to the electrical grid and save money each month. All right. So of course, with any solar project, energy production is fully dependent on sunlight. The graphic here is really just to show that, during high sunlight months like the middle of summer, savings are going to be greater, whereas in the winter months with less sunlight, your savings will be less. And so the green box column, I believe, under state incentive highlights that your 10% savings will stay the same, but it will be 10% off of whatever energy the solar farm's panels can harness and convert into clean energy, given the time of year. So in total, it averages to about 80% of your energy supply coming from the farm over the course of the year. Oh, and so one more thought. The takeaway is that you will never be paying more than your original bill. And so you will always have an immediate environmental impact as well. All right. So even if signing up was free, but you had to pay two separate bills in order to partake in this program, I think that would be enough for a lot of people just to say, I'm good sticking with what I have. So that's why instead of paying your utility, you would be paying common energy a lower amount each month. So this is an example of a statement of savings that we would send you. Just like your regular utility statement that comes each month, this will also come each month, and then you'll have 10 days to review it, make sure that everything looks crystal clear before any transactions happen. But I guess I'll start with the fact that the solar farm's clean energy costs money, as all energy does. But common energy guarantees that the energy credit you get will not only cover that clean energy cost, but that you will always have a bit left over. And so the reason this is possible is because of three things. First, our relationship with the solar developers. They're responsible for all the tech, all the maintenance, the engineering of their panels, but they really need to get people signed on. And so that's where we come in as Common Energy and say, we can be your community outreach on the condition that you guarantee 10% savings off of your clean energy to everyone who enrolls. And so this kind of brings me to the second reason that they can guarantee this. Massachusetts state incentives are backing these farms financially. And so third and last, the production cost of clean energy is cheaper today than it ever has been. So to sum it up with this example, this New York homeowner went from an original payment of close to $150, received an energy credit that covered the farm's clean energy, and then the remaining credit reduced the bill to about $136. So with that, some other important numbers that I find quite exciting is that every single month you're going to be able to see your tangible impact. So it'll show you exactly how many kilowatt hours of clean energy that you've enabled, and then how many pounds of carbon emissions you've prevented. And I love this because it's not like you have to wait an entire year to see your impact. You're going to be getting this every single month, just along with the rest of your bill. Okay, so you only need two things to sign up. First is your utility login so that your utility knows which account to send the clean energy credit to. And then the second thing is a method of payment. So as I mentioned before, instead of paying the utility, you would be paying Common Energy that lower amount, and we actually pay two bills on your behalf. The first is going to be going directly to the solar developers who will be providing, again, about that 80% of your electricity with clean energy, and then the remainder to your current utility. In this case, for all of us, would be Eversource. And so to sum it up, Common Energy is just becoming your new billing provider. Okay, so this is my personal favorite slide. This is the project that I am signing folks up for. This is the Swanholt Farm in Carver, Massachusetts. The project size is 3.8 megawatts, which can supply over 600 average households. Again, the numbers, every time I read them, are quite staggering. It can provide 5.3 million kilowatt hours of clean energy annually, and then it can prevent over 2 million pounds of carbon emissions per year. So the biggest thing about this is that the farm is still being finished, but it will be done before the end of the year. I believe it's projected for this October, which again, given the pandemic and just the current chaos of the world, I think this is extremely exciting. But you're probably wondering, excuse me, well, if it's not finished, then why are you telling me now? So I think the best way to think about it is that the state of Massachusetts won't release its financial statements to the solar developers unless it knows that energy is going somewhere, which is why we need subscribers to help build and activate these farms and get them connected to the grid by signing up. It's kind of like casting your vote to ensure that clean energy is on the grid. So by signing up, you will make a positive impact on your surrounding community. You'll be saving each month for up to 20 years. Sign up is free and cancellation is free as well. And the only reason I emphasize the latter is just because especially thanks to this internship, I've learned so much about the scams going on within the clean energy industry. And it just encompasses things like, sucking customers up into 3-month or 6-month contracts, and then suddenly skyrocketing the energy prices too quickly for consumers to realize. But there's a reason that cancellation is free here, and that's because we are so strong. We are such strong believers in what we're doing to get clean energy on the grid, which I think is just extremely powerful. So, a lovely statistic as well, you'll be helping to prevent about 100,000 pounds of carbon emissions, equivalent to planting 200 trees. And then, one thing that this doesn't mention is that Massachusetts policy mandates that these big energy producers actually have a dual purpose. So the Swan Holt Farm and its sister Godfrey Farm, both in Carver, they actually produce cranberries at the same time that they produce clean energy. So you'll even be supporting a local farm at the same time. So last but not least, there are limited spots just because each account that signed up is allotted a portion of the solar farm's energy. So all of you in Maynard should be in the Eversource East electrical grid zone, but you can double check that just by going to this link, which I will include in the chat right now. All right, so if you go to your chat on your computer or laptop or wherever you happen to be streaming, you should find a link that I just put in. And so if you click on check availability, you can put in your zip code and just see what farm, if there is a farm available. And then also one feature I love to point out on that link as well is just there's a little calculator at the bottom. So if you have an idea of about how much you're spending on utilities currently, then you can kind of test run to see not only your potential savings, but your potential environmental impact. So with that is my entire spiel. And I know it's a lot of information. So thank you all for just taking the time to sit through. I know that I can see Carrie Ann at the bottom of my screen, who is my wonderful impact team manager. So I'd love to give them a chance to introduce themselves really quick. And I believe that both Carrie Ann and I will be opening the floor to answer questions. So Carrie Ann, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry I was late, Ella. I'm Carrie Ann. I'm the impact team market leader for Ella and several other of our teammates. And I've been doing this for almost a whole year now. So ask your questions. We totally have the answers, even your specific nitty gritties. I'm happy to help you figure it out.
Yay. Help. Okay. Participants, me. Okay. I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, this is Lee Karras talking. I belong to Green Energy Consumers Alliance. And so they bill me extra every month based on my electrical usage through Eversource in support of the development of solar wind energy in Massachusetts. Is it possible to sign up for Common Energy and keep the Green Energy Consumer Alliance program with my account?
Yeah, it's totally possible. Essentially, what you look to be signed up, and I was just looking at their website so that I can make sure that I'm telling you exactly what. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So based on their website, I'm gonna guess that they're an energy service company, which is fine and great. And in Massachusetts, you are, I believe, allowed to sign up for both community solar and an energy service company at the same time. So billing wise, you would probably still just get one bill, and it would
I get two bills. I don't get one bill.
Okay.
So I don't know that they are an energy service company.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I guess the way it works is they have access to my Eversource bill, which I pay, and then I get an email from Green Energy Consumers Alliance saying, based on your electrical usage for the month, the amount we're charging you, which is some small fraction of that, will be such and such. And you have told them to bill that to a credit card. And the amounts that you pay through Green Energy Consumers Alliance are tax deductible. So I think it has to be a nonprofit organization. So I don't know if it's really possible to also do common energy on top of that, or to change from Eversource being my regular biller to common energy if I keep green energy intact, because they were basing the monthly contribution on the total amount due to Eversource. I'm taking up a lot of time, and maybe nobody else has this problem.
You know, actually, it was a funny question you asked, because I had the exact same question, because I also do green energy consumer. So I don't mind that you're taking up the time, because I had the same question.
Okay, so you're both a part of the Green Energy Consumer Alliance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Give me just one moment. I'm actually looking at their like customer agreement right now. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly how they word it, and once I'm positive, I want to give you an answer. But I just want to look through this and make sure I know what it is. Okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
If there are other questions, we can maybe open the floor and then we'll come back.
I had a question about how the credits work on the monthly bill. Do you get a credit every month, or is that like one annual credit?
So you're going to get a credit each month. And so I think it's also nice because a lot of people are wondering, like, is there a way to somehow go over? And the answer is no, just because let's say that, first of all, we take your previous electrical usage and then we say, okay, based off of this data, we are going to allot your unit this amount of energy. And so then if that allotment just happens to be more than what you actually need and what you end up using, first of all, there's no harm, because that remainder that you don't use actually just rolls over into the next month's credit. And so you're never going to find yourself, like I mentioned, you're never going to be paying more than your original bill, which I think comforts a lot of people. But did that answer your question, Laura?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
It's a little weird maybe, but I appreciate from NSTAR finding out how much I've spent over the last month, how much I spent for the same month last year. I mean, there's a lot of other information on their bill, which is interesting to me, which I don't see on the bill that you provided.
I see. So in terms of kind of just like extra statistics,
Yeah.
for example, I see. Yes. So I think just for the sake of, again, ensuring that our priority is to pay these two separate bills on time, just because that's kind of the guaranteed savings aspect. We have to pay these on time just so that, we can guarantee that everything goes smoothly with the state incentives and your savings. So I think that's probably why our two main components as to what ends up being on the bill is your savings first and foremost, and then the amount of clean energy that you've enabled. But it is cool to know that, you can see other statistics, and I'm sure Common is probably looking into other little fun facts that they can include, just because I think the more that people see, the more people are encouraged to just continue having that environmental impact as well.
Also,
And it's useful and interesting to know if I paid a lot more this month than I did the previous month without having to go back and get the previous bill, or how much last January as opposed to this January. So I'm just would be sorry to lose that, but
You'd have to write it down yourself, Orion.
I know. Well, I mean, the other thing
I
is,
look at those things too. I look at those things as well. But I, take it off a bill and I have a chart, my own chart. So although the company, I have Eversource rather than NSTAR, but they do the same kind of thing.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we in an Eversource electrical zone? I think I looked at this once and found we weren't. Now that was some time ago, but
I can actually pull up a little utility map if that's, let's see, I have it on
Good.
my laptop.
I think I pay.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing screen for just a second and then I'll reshare so that way everyone can see this little image. Okay, so hopefully the resolution on this is enough, but let's see. Oh,
we're the last dark green one. Yeah, we're there.
I know. I remember when I was, just looking into outreach possibilities, I was like, oh, this is just on the outskirts, just within reach of both of our solar sister farms. So, yeah, and I think it's also interesting just because Eversource East is just extremely large, notably because, especially around the Boston area, it's just there's so many people there, which I find is ideal for the location of these two solar farms. All right.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Sure, please.
So I grew up in Kingston, which is next to Carver, and I grew up around cranberry bogs and everything. So I love that this is connected to that. But so are the farmers of the cranberry bogs benefiting from this at all? Like if they're still active farms, do you know?
Yes, they most definitely are.
Okay.
So rather than kind of thinking about it as the overtake of community solar against these farms, they're very much working in conjunction with each other so that these farmers are still making profit and still operating.
That's awesome. Okay.
I think it's one of the coolest partnerships.
Yeah.
I believe that Carrie Ann might have sent into our Massachusetts team chat one day a photo of sheep just on the farm perusing about.
Awesome.
So they're very much in action at this very moment.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, I have, I think, an answer about the Green Energy Consumer Alliance. From what I can tell, it seems like they're not part of community solar. And community solar specifically, as I'm sure Ella has mentioned, part of the Massachusetts STARS Solar Initiative program. Community solar has to be free, and the discount, the 10% discount, is mandated by the Massachusetts STARS program. So I'm absolutely positive that our program is technically different than what they are offering you. I am only aware of third-party energy service companies providing clean energy for a fee, no matter how small it is. That's the only time I have seen that happen, but I cannot find information specifically on their website that calls them either a third-party utility or energy supplier, or the term ESCO, which is an energy service company. I don't see those related to the title in any place. And Laura, you did say you thought it was a nonprofit. I think I did also see that it is a nonprofit.
Mhm.
I am absolutely positive, though, that you can sign up for both at the same time. And if you weren't able to, you would get kind of, our program would tell you no, essentially, because the way our program works is we're directly partnered with the utility. So if there's clean energy coming from any solar farm, wind power in your local area to the utility, they're kind of tagging that under your name and being like, okay, Lee helped enable this much clean energy from this energy source to enter the grid, right? So that's what we do also. We build community solar farms in your area, and then we directly partner with Eversource, and Eversource says, okay, this solar farm in Carver, Laura signed up for it, and they enabled this much clean energy from the solar farm to enter the grid. If you're doing that, you're taking a part of the state program. And because of the way that utilities work, it's like, if you're only signed up for 25% of your energy to be coming from a clean source, then the other, 75 can come from the community solar. If you're, only signed up for 50% of your energy to come from a specific source, then it's not producing at 100% all the time, the same way Ella described that to us. And you can sign up for community solar to subsidize what it's not producing, which is why states allow you to sign up for like an ESCO and community solar at the same time. Essentially because you're not ever going to have all of your clean energy produced from the same source, even if they're both partnered with the utility and sending you the energy via the utility. I just gave a lot of info. If there are more questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think the
I
way
think I'll just check with the contact I have at Green Energy Consumers Alliance. I mean, I think what you're saying sounds right. Yeah, their idea is not to save you money on your current electric bill. It's to provide funds for the development of alternative energy sources. And you have a choice of a mix, or I do 100% wind. And to have that be a contribution, which is a whole different thought than creating alternative energy sources through common energy. So I think I'll give them a call or an email and see how they also think it works. I hope it does. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. And happy to, call them. You can call our customer service if you feel like you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
We're happy. We're a very small company, but we're expanding a lot. But our customer service people are excellent. There's 3 of them and they could answer any questions. So if you ask and you've got more, definitely feel free to give them a call.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other follow-ups to that information?
All right. I think with that, I will go ahead and plop one more link into our lovely little chat. And so this one is just for the purpose of webinar feedback primarily, just because, I'm lucky that there weren't any technical difficulties, at least not that I intended to expect. No Zoom crashing, thank goodness, but I would love to hear anyone's feedback. And so it also has the appropriate links to a couple of the resources I mentioned in the presentation. And so if you go to that and just take a couple minutes to fill it out, that would be extremely helpful to us. And I would be extremely grateful as well. So in the meantime, be on the lookout for a little wrap-up email. And again, thank you so much for coming online and for asking such wonderful questions. Feel free, please, to include any other questions that you think of in that particular form. And my contact information should be there as well for an infinite supply of hopefully answers to your questions. And so again, thank you very much. And I'll be hanging out online for a little bit in the meantime, and otherwise have a wonderful rest of your evening and week.
Thank you.
Ella,
Thank you.
one note is that there's a question about seeing that data from your utility. when you're signed up with Common, you can still fully log into your utility account. So all that information
Oh,
will still be
okay.
available.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Triumph, Orion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I enjoyed that very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Ella. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Orion and Laura.
Oh, thank you. You
Yeah.
were a trooper. Sorry, like we ended up changing the date and
Yeah.